Okay, welcome to the third video in arthropods series. We've finished with malacostricans, which are sort of the crays, crabs, shrimps, and isopods and amphipods, and now we're moving on to maxillopoda. So these ones may look quite different. These are copiopods and barnacles, but yet they have a lot of the same body features as other arthropods and other crustaceans, and they are similar to each other because if we look at the infraclass Cirripedia, cirriped means feathered foot, and both of these have appendages that are modified for filtering out phytoplankton. Well, plankton can be zooplankton as well, but mostly phytoplankton. And their body segments that we took a lot of note of in the crayfish and shrimp and prawns and mantis shrimp and the things like that are only visible during the larval stages. So we see the same stages as in larval development, but then these things look quite different as adults. Okay. So here are some of the barnacles. We'll start by talking about barnacles. So, okay, here we have encrusting barnacles, and then you have the more planktonic type that are goose barnacles that are stalked, and these ones you may have seen washed up on the beach. These are what we get commonly around here, and they tend to stick to anything floating around in the open ocean. Okay, cirripeds. The crustacean body form's only apparent at the larval stage, and we'll have a look at the larva in a bit, but the planktonic larva settles, attaches itself to the substrate by the head, okay, and then contains special glands in the head which produce a type of cement, and they glue themselves to the substrate. So these larvae are swimming around, and they smell, chemically sense the right place to settle, and then they glue themselves to the substrate, and they wind up looking like this. Okay, and this is what a barnacle will be for the rest of its life. This is what the barnacle's house is for the rest of its life. So once it's glued to the substrate, the antennae disappear. A lot of the unnecessary body parts, like the antennas, okay, some of the other things like the abdomen, all just disappear, and the animal is left with only what it needs to survive living in this little house. So it secretes the shell, which is not the exoskeleton. The exoskeleton is still surrounding the animal, but it secretes this calcium carbonate shell, which is made up of lots of different plates. So there is some overlap and some flexibility in the size of this to allow a bit of growth. And so it's made up of 6 or 8 plates. Okay, so 1, 2 on the front, 1 back, 2 on the sides, which are lateral ones. So that makes 4, and then the 2 on the other side. And then it's got the aperture, like the aperture of a camera, which is the opening, and what are called the tergum and the scutum. So these ones are the trap door, if you will, of the barnacle's house. Okay, and that together is called the Operculum. So the Operculum is the part here that opens, and you can see how this thing opens up to allow this animal to come out and filter feed. So this is what the adult looks like. All right, they have the carina, which again is not the exoskeleton, and there are some muscular attachments to the tergum and scutum here. And then this little area, this water-filled cavity that they can close up and resist desiccation in the tides. And then they still have these thoracic appendages, which would be periopods, right? And these things come out, and you'll see in the video of the YouTube videos of these things filtering that these things come out, and you can see that they're modified as little feathery appendages that will come out and scoop away at the water and scoop plankton into the mouth, in which case it's digested and then later pushed out through this opening, the wastes. Okay, here's another one. These are edible barnacles, percives. They could go. You could check out this YouTube video, and these things go for $100 a kilo or so in Europe. And people consider them a great delicacy. Okay. Here is another video showing how these things feed. Okay, when they put this feathery scoop out, so they come out, grab whatever plankton's in the water, and pull it down to the mouth. And then, so these are the thoracic appendages, which would be the same as periopods. And then the other interesting thing about these things is you can see this video with watching these things mate. Of course, they can't crawl to each other to copulate, as most arthropods do. Most crustaceans mate by copulation, and so since these things can't crawl out to another barnacle next door, they have to have this long penis to reach out to other sessile individuals. And so one of the things about barnacles that's interesting is they have the longest penis to body weight ratio of any animal on the planet. Okay, and then finally the last organism, or the last class of organisms that we're going to be concerned with in crustaceans is subclass copiapod. So copiopods, they have a single eye. Okay, the abdomen lacks appendages. They can be benthic, planktonic, or parasitic, and these are very important because these are ubiquitous around the oceans of the world. They're in pretty much every ocean of the world, and they're one of the main ways that the very, very small cells that are primary producers, like phytoplankton, get turned into food that's big enough for fish to eat. So these things eat a lot of phytoplankton, and then the fish can come along and eat these things, and if it wasn't for some intermediate like copiopods, then the fish would never be able to eat such small food as the phytoplankton, and they wouldn't be able to take advantage of all that primary productivity. We'd have fisheries collapse. Okay, so anyway, these, you can see one eye. Alright, here's the eye spot. Okay, and no appendages on the abdomen. They still have two pairs of antennae. Okay, and the antennae are used to help them move. Okay, so first antenna, second antenna. The second one's branched, as you can see. No abdominal appendages. They do have these periopods on the cephalothorax, so you can still see the crustacean features of two antennae, the cephalothorax, the abdomen. Okay, and they use a lot of these, they use all the periopods for swimming. Okay, and then the maxillopods are, again, like you can see, these feathery appendages. Okay, and they are used, as we saw in the cirripeds, in the barnacles, for filtering out plankton. Okay, so these things still exhibit the same crustacean body plan and are very important because of how widespread they are. Here's an electron micrograph of one that's kind of shriveled up because they have to prepare these things in in a vacuum, and you can see that they brood their eggs. This one's carrying its eggs along. Okay, and just very much like a crayfish in berry. Okay, except that they're hooked to this this genital pore here rather than hooked to the abdominal appendages. Okay, so they feed in a variety of modes, range of foods. Mostly are filter feeding on phytoplankton. Okay, and the planktonic forms use their antennae as swimming patches, swimming appendages. Okay, very good. So that's it for everything we need to know about arthropods. We've just got a few of the New Zealand crustaceans. So this one's a hermit crab. There we go, some plicate barnacles. Another hermit crab out of its shell. Here's a red rock crab, a red shore crab, very common. Pink barnacles. Okay, you can see the appendages out for filter feeding there. And that's all the pictures that we're going to deal with in this slideshow.